So most of the people talking about Mounjaro online are women, and that's really cool. And there's some fantastic creators out there sharing their journeys. But it does mean there's a side of this experience that almost never gets talked about because men deal with this medication a little bit different, not just physically, but mentally as well. And there are a few things men experience on Mounjaro that we tend to keep completely quiet about. Now, if you're a woman watching this, don't click away, because this might actually help explain some of the differences you see in your partners, friends, or family members going through this exact same journey. So my name's Manda's Midlife, and I've been taking Mounjaro now for just over 8 months. In that time, I've lost over 70 pounds. This channel documents the entire journey, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And if you've watched last Saturday's video, you'll see there's been a few bad points. Now, I inject 7.5 milligrams every single week into my belly, and I'll continue to do that until I reach my goal weight, which is 16 stone. I'm currently at 17 stone and 11 pounds. So a little way to go yet. If you think this is going to be the kind of channel that helps you along in your journey, don't forget to click subscribe and like this video. So the first topic I want to talk about today is why men often avoid weight loss conversations. As men, we tend to grow up with a very our outlook seems to be all about pride and independence, and we grow up believing that you need to get yourself to the gym, you need to work it out, you need to use your willpower. You know, it's not a very manly thing to say I'm taking medication to lose weight. Another thing worth mentioning is, as men, we don't tend to sit around talking about weight in social situations. We don't tend to talk about body image in social situations. And we've also got that fear of judgment because as a man, if you're taking this medication, it could well be deemed that you're taking the easy way out. Of course, we're taking this medication, male or female, we know it's not the easy way out. It is just a tool. And there's also a part of bloke lad culture where being the big man, being the big bloke, he's got a big appetite, he's got big portions, he's got big presence, can feel a little bit strange as well. And it also seems to me that men are statistically less likely to talk openly about their health problems in general. And I'm not just talking about weight loss. Be interested to know if there's any men watching. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think about that statement. It's a bit of a big one, but I'm talking from my own personal experience as well. And it's also worth noting that I think men prefer to deal with issues privately rather than talk through them publicly, as I'm doing now on this YouTube channel, and I have done for the last 8 months. And within this space of content creation, YouTube journeys and all that, men are quite rare, and there's no getting away from that. So this is going to be giving you a male orientated angle without alienating any of the female viewers, of course, because I'd hate to do that, because these are videos for everyone. They are for the entire community. So for me, the catalyst for starting this journey is more about how the weight's crept up over the years. It wasn't one big moment, it's just gradually getting heavier and heavier as the years have gone on. And as I creep into my mid-50s, there's a point when you need to start seriously thinking about health and not just appearance. Energy day to day was never great, always feeling tired, having to pull over because I was falling asleep while I was driving. Mobility issues, not great at all. So for me, it wasn't about a big announcement. It was maybe getting to the point where I thought, come on, we need to try something different. We've tried everything else, let's try this now. And that's when I started looking at the option of taking Mounjaro, which as a man, I felt was a huge decision, because I knew one man that was taking this medication, just one man out of all the males I know, and I work in quite a male dominated industry. Out of all the males I knew, one man was taking Mounjaro. But what I did do was I spoke to that man and I asked him a few questions. How does it make you feel? What are your side effects? All the stuff you should be asking before you start this journey. But when you look at that situation where you know one person that's taking it, it really is a huge decision to make. Shall we talk about the mental side that us men don't generally discuss? And let's start with a quiet guilt about using the medication. As I said previously, a lot of men grow up believing weight loss should come down to willpower. We're all big strong men and We don't need to show a weakness. We don't have any chinks in our armours. So when you start taking the medication, it's initially going to feel like you're cheating, even though it's a legitimate medical tool. And then you get that identity shift. Now, if you're like me and you've always been the big bloke for years and years, the one with the big appetite, the one finish everybody else's food, give me that, I'll take that. Anybody want this? Yeah, I'll have it. Losing weight changes part of how you see yourself too. And that's a massive identity shift. And it's also, for me, it relates to how people see me as well. So if we go out on a football day out and we go and get a breakfast, everybody else is ordering a massive breakfast, and now I'll get the smaller breakfast. Or if I have to have the larger one, do you want one of my sausages? Do you want my bacon? Do you want to finish this? And that's a huge identity shift, and people take a while to get used to that. Friends, women in my friendship group, they've also taken a while to get used to it. And what about body image? How many men do you know that have admitted they struggle with body confidence? But a lot of men who are carrying a lot of weight will admit privately that it affects how you feel in clothes, in photos, and in social situations. And that was exactly how I felt. If I was going out for an evening, I would try on some clothes, didn't feel comfortable in it. Try on some different clothes, didn't feel comfortable in it. Try on a shirt, that one's too tight, the buttons are gaping a little bit. Try on a t-shirt, that one still makes me look fat. And it just goes on and on and on. Did I ever admit that to anyone? Absolutely not. Because that's not what us men do. We don't talk about body image. We don't talk about the lack of confidence. What we do as men is we try and process it privately. So instead of talking about it with friends, we just try and deal with it mentally. And I really suspect there are going to be a lot of men watching this who recognise these thoughts, even if we very rarely tend to say them out loud, as I'm doing right now to all of you on my YouTube channel. And it must be said, the other day, I think it was on Saturday's video, the one where I put on £4 in a week, I'll put the link to that up there if you like. Somebody said, I think you're so brave for sharing all this. And I don't feel like I'm brave at all. This channel was always set out to share my journey, share what I've learned along the way. Not to be brave, not to be a guru for Mounjaro or a guru for men's health. It's all about sharing. It's all about the community, giving back what I've learned to some of you, and hopefully it'll help you along the way, or if you're struggling with similar situations as I am. And all I ask in return for that is you like the video, you subscribe to the channel, and if you've got a question for Q&A, just leave it down below in the comments and it will feature on one of Saturday's videos. But your support, as always, means the world to me. So the channel's recently partnered up with a company called Bulk Pharmacy, and that is where I now get all my medications from. Now, before I started pushing discount vouchers, links in descriptions and all that kind of stuff, I wanted to make sure they were a good fit for the channel, and I believe they are, else I wouldn't be talking about them, I wouldn't be sharing a link. It's as simple as that. I'm on my third supplier now, but they've been by far the most professional, by far the most helpful, and I highly recommend them. If you want to get £30 off your first order from Bulk Pharmacy, I'm going to leave a link down in the description. And if you're sat in the US thinking, well, we don't have Bulk Pharmacy, there's also one for Fella Health. Right, so now we're going to talk about the physical things men notice but don't usually talk about. Now, we as men tend to lose weight faster at first because we tend to have more muscle mass. So that early weight loss can happen quickly, and it certainly did with me, and it can be really surprising. But you also need to be aware that your strength can also drop. So if you're in a physical job where you have to do lifting, you may well notice your strength's going to be dipping. So you need to make sure you maintain your protein, and if you can at all, get to the gym and do resistance training. And you may also notice the changes in how alcohol affects you. As you get lighter, as you get smaller, you're going to have less tolerance of alcohol. Now, for me personally, it hasn't made a huge amount of difference. I used to love Guinness, do enjoy a pint now and again, but I don't drink anywhere near what I was drinking before. And one, that's because I don't fancy it anymore, down to the Mounjaro, and two, because obviously I'm mindful of the calories, because I think there's approximately 200 calories in a pint of Guinness. You'll also notice things about clothes are changing. Clothes are fitting differently, and one of the first things you're probably going to notice as a man is your belt's going to need to go up a notch. So This may even happen before the scales start really registering it, but your shape's going to change, and that's probably the first place you're going to notice it. The other point of view of being a man is you're probably going to get less direct compliments and more subtle compliments, I would guess. Now, I know in my group of friends, they've been fully supportive. They've been absolutely amazing. But I don't think anyone would ever say to me, hey, you're looking great. You look amazing. They're going to say, in fact, they're probably going to say, even if they didn't know I was on Mounjaro, which the majority of them do, they're probably going to say, oh, someone's been on the fat jabs. Because that's how men communicate, isn't it? Or certainly in England, it's how men communicate. As a man, things are going to feel and look a little bit different when people are commenting to you. I'll have a quick chat now about why midlife changes the equation as a man. Because as you get older, health becomes more real, it becomes more important, and you're thinking a little bit more long-term health than you would in maybe your 20s or 30s as a man. So it's not just about appearance anymore, it's about having the energy to live your life properly day to day, the mobility to live your life day to day, and hopefully a longer life. So when you reach the age that I am, which is 53, you reach a stage where you realise that health's going to affect your future plans, it's going to affect your family, it's going to affect your work, and the potential to retire as well. And it's also worth noting that as you get older, your body will respond differently to weight loss as well. It gets harder than it was when you were in your 20s or 30s. And that's why you end up looking at tools like Mounjaro or Ozempic or Wegovy. And that in turn affects your perspective as well. Because rather than saying, how do I look? It kind of changes to, how do I want to feel in 10 or 20 years? And then we boil back down to the health versus wealth argument, which I discussed in last Wednesday's video, because it stops being about quick fixes and starts being about long-term health. Let's talk about what surprised me most on this journey as a man. Now, the first thing that surprised me is how many men there are sharing this journey on YouTube, and there's very, very few. There's no more than a handful of us sort of real, honest and frank men sharing their journeys, and that really surprised me. And it just makes you realise how private the journey could feel if you're a man, because unlike women who talk openly about dieting or weight loss, most men don't really discuss it. So the whole process has felt really quite personal, albeit I'm in a kind of different area because I'm sharing it all with you guys twice a week. But I would imagine if you're not in that position where you've got a YouTube channel, you're not sharing your journey, it can feel quite lonely. So if you are feeling that way and you are struggling on your own, then absolutely leave me a comment down below, and I, as always, will answer every comment and do my best to sort of help you through whatever it is you're going through. The other thing is making me realise the peer pressure and portion sizes and snacking and cravings, and how as a man you're kind of expected to be the big man, you were kind of expected to be the greedy boy. I didn't really realise I was part of that until I stopped doing it, and I never realised that before. But I found that really interesting, to be honest, really interesting. So there we have it. Those are a few of the things I think that men experience on Mounjaro, certainly from my perspective. And I know we don't always talk about it. And that's not because we're being dramatic, it's not because they're dramatic, it's because men tend to deal with stuff quietly on the whole. If you're a man watching this, you might even recognise some of those thoughts yourself, even if you've never said them out loud. And if you're a woman watching it, it might explain why the men in your life sometimes approach weight loss a little bit different than you do. The reality is this journey isn't just a physical journey, there's a mental side to it as well. And that part often with men stays unspoken. But let's be honest, the more people share experiences honestly, the easier it becomes for others to understand what it's really, really like. I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you could like this video, it would be amazing. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. There are some affiliate links down below for some of the stuff that I use daily, and they wouldn't be there if I didn't endorse them and use them daily. I'll pop a few of my other videos on the screen for you now to watch if you fancy watching a middle-aged, jelly-bellied old man sat on the edge of his bed waffling on for hours on end. but it's all there should you wish to watch it. I'll see you all on Saturday. Thanks again for watching.